except he's not back yet with us. Anyone else want to have a go at early years?
I think Kelly and I might be able to do a double act.
Or a double act, even better.
Kelly's actually managed to solve her IT issues.
Excellent.
So she's on the call. I'll just open the paper to have it in front of me. And hopefully by the time I've opened the paper, Chris will have come back in.
Come back on it. Is he? He's not in the room, is he? I don't think. Just looking along the line now. Oh, I don't enjoy chairing Zoom meetings. It's fun, isn't it? Oh, here he is. He wants to come in now.
Great.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Nobody else in?
We're just wondering whether you or Beth and Kelly are going to present an early years funding consultation.
Beth, what do you want? Do you want to do it on me?
I don't mind. You go for it.
Just to step in, Chris, I think they were just making time up until you got here.
Oh, okay. Look, I don't mind doing it, Beth. I mean, you're technically more adept than I am. It's up to you. I don't mind doing it.
I'll go for the questions. You present it, Chris.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Are you wanting us to put it on screen, Chris?
No, I don't think so. Unless anybody wants it a bit as we go through. Let me just, what I'd rather do is present it very briefly, just what the problems we've got, and this is a consultation and why, and then leave time for questions.
Yep, that sounds great.
Do you want me to start now then, Pete? Is everybody there?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay, so this is the consultation on early years funding. It is unlike all the other reports that are actually for votes on funding, because we get the funding allocations from the ESFA so late. So the proposal is that we're talking to Schools Forum now about our consultation proposals. If you agree them, we'll start the consultation on the, I think it's the 16th, and we'll finish it on the 13th, giving us 5 days before the January Schools Forum, so that you get time to see the final proposals following the consultation and are able to vote. And then obviously we'll deliver the funding to the earlier settings for the 1st of April. So there's some general principles in section 2.1. We have to passport 95% of the funding available in the early years block to early years settings. We are allowed to keep 5%. It's quite difficult to do all the administration within 5% of the grant, but I'm pleased to say we've managed it within that 5%, so that's fine. Just note paragraph 3, we got things even later this year. And then on 3 rates, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but we are due to receive an increase of 21 pence an hour. That's in paragraph 3.1. And we don't know yet between 12 and 17 pence for 3 and 4 year olds. What we do here is outline our preferred distribution of increases based on the percentage. This, of course, includes maintained nursery schools. Paragraph 3 is a technical paragraph. Beth will be answering questions on this. We actually over allocate, and therefore in paragraph 3.4, we explain the actual increase we get against the notional increase and how we distribute it. Then importantly, table 1 shows the early years announcements, and then under section 4, in section 4 paragraph 4.1, I beg your pardon, we set out the guidance. Then in section 5, we look at the maintained nursery school supplement. What we try to do here, Beth is the author of the report. It is very difficult to maintain nursery schools because they have a set of requirements that is out with all the other early years providers, including maintained schools with nurseries, because obviously they have to have a teacher and a Senko for early years, whereas a primary school with an early years setting has a whole school and much greater economies of scale. This means they can't do things to the same level of efficiency as other settings, and therefore the maintain grant. I'm pleased to say that we passed for all of that, but the nursery schools left having to get extra efficiencies. Lastly, proposed actual formula is set out in section 6, and in table 2, you've got the actual budgets proposed for early years. So that's as much as we need to say. This is not the proposal, this is the proposal for consultation. And we'll come back following the responses to the consultation with the firm proposals at the January 18th meeting of Schools Forum. I think that's it, Peter.
Yep, thank you very much, Chris. Lindsay has got her virtual hand up.
Thank you. My first question, Beth, you might be able to answer this for 3.4. So the proposal that will go in the consultation in terms of what will be provided as the funding rate. So obviously, if I think I understand it right, the proposal is under due to the fact that you don't want to overpay and then have to claw back the money at a later date. Is that correct?
It's more that there's our funding is based on a census point, and we pay out based on the head count of hours that you submit to us, and there's always a greater number of hours we have to fund than the number of hours we're funded on. So when we get a 17p or 21p increase, we can't passport that directly on. We have to reduce it to fit within that extra that we know. Right. Generally tend to pay about 106% of the fund in terms of hours. So within that 3 and 4 year old pot, we fund the deprivation, and we fund the central 5%, and we fund. So we put it all into a mathematical model.
Okay.
What we can afford to add on.
Okay. And the other things I just wanted to raise, firstly, was the consultation period. I know obviously the information came through late, but I believe this happened last year with the consultation for the early years funding, that it was right at the end of the year. Literally the 16th of December is the sort of last day of term, which I think there was low numbers last year that were able to respond due to the period of time over Christmas.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. We are kind of restricted because if we don't go out now, then it means we can't get the budget to you in February. And we have in past years had that problem where it's been right up to the legal wire of 31st of March. I know that's really unhelpful for settings. And if we can get the broad approach to how we do it in January, it allows things to plan better for next year.
And the other information I just wanted to share, because it's really helpful that you've outlined, obviously, the pressures that maintained nursery schools are under. Just really a bit of the history about where that's come from as well. Because of the funding for the nursery schools is made up, obviously, of different compartments like schools in terms of cost for premises, head teacher, Senko, and so on. But it's based on census data for the pupils that you have in the school. But when the 30 hours was introduced back in 2017, the formula was based on number of pupils rather than places taken up. So historically, nursery schools were providing the 15 hours places of either a morning or afternoon place. So we were unaware of this change. Therefore, children that were now eligible for 30 hours as parents are working, they were taking up 2 places. Therefore, it was detrimental to the funding to nursery schools, and we saw huge reductions year on year to our funding. Also, alongside this, obviously, the changes to the early year single funding formula and the loss of the quality supplement has led to further cuts to the nursery schools. I know, obviously, it's been mentioned around these 2 nursery schools that received the additional funding. So the history around that as well was that that was part of the designated schools grant funding, but it was transferred to the maintained nursery schools so that it was ring fenced and more secure for those nursery schools. And the history around that funding was for those 2 nursery schools in Northamptonshire that provide additional services in areas of deprivation for early help and support for those families. My concerns really around the consultation on it is what this will look like moving forward, because one of the nursery schools is in the west and one in the north, but the one in the west that receives the additional funds, which is Camrose, is around 379,000, but the one in the north is just under 1 million. So how this will be proportioned out, if it is proportioned out across the 9 nursery schools, because there isn't an equal amount across the 2 authorities. And also what concerns me around the consultation on it is just really about the lack of understanding, because obviously this is going out to the sector in terms of how that should be proportioned out for the nursery schools, and do they really have an understanding around the needs of the nursery school and how that would work for the nursery schools. I personally feel that some work with the nursery schools, the current head teachers and governors could share some of that information with the local authority that could have informed the consultation process.
Thanks, Lindsay. Just to say that this is the start of the consultation process, so you can feed into it now, and we haven't set the questions, and that's really our reason for coming with the proposed questions now, to give you a chance to input into them. So that's the point of this process.
Yeah, I think
normally we wouldn't bring these. I don't think in the past we've ever brought consultation questions.
Yeah, I think you have. Yeah, I think last year's early years consultation questions, and I think it might not have been last year, but the year before, there was some questions around maintained nursery school funding and the questions, and we raised some concerns around, again, the information that was being provided so that people could respond appropriately with the background information. Okay, so if I could email you some points then, but I definitely think some work with the current nursery schools, the head teachers and the governors to feed into that.
And also I'd sort of just refer back to March's shadow school forums where we took the paper on this, because this is what that's based on. We gave our intention to consult on this in March. Quite a detailed paper, so I haven't had any feedback from you, any of the maintained nursery heads, just than Peregrine, that's not correct.
Yes, and I know it's been challenging times, as you know, with Camrose and the financial situation that they've been in, and I've obviously been asked to support with that, and we've obviously come up with a business case, and that's in motion now to become financially viable and stable with their current funding stream. So the proposal to change that is quite concerning. So yeah, I think that the work needs to be done around that with the heads and the governors.
Thank you. Rachel.
Yeah, I'd just like to sort of go off the back of what Lindsay said about the clarity of the consultation, and not on from a mainstream point of view, but for all sectors in early years. I think we have a difficulty now of being really clear with the information to providers. If it's not understandable information, providers aren't going to want to fill in the consultation. I think we did speak about that last year on the back of it, and the amount of responses that we did have for the consultation. If I didn't understand, if I wasn't on Schools Forum and didn't understand what I do know about the funding now, 60% of the available increase is language that I don't really understand. And, we're talking about managers and settings that, they don't do this on an everyday basis. They're not head teacher, they don't do sort of this kind of work. They're managers who work with children, so having to put their heads to something like this and contribute towards a consultation that maybe they don't fully understand is off-putting, and they're not going to then contribute towards a consultation. So the information that's provided, I think, really needs to be extremely explicit for people to understand what is being proposed. I have a couple of other things to sort of say. It'd be interesting to see what the additional funding for the 3 to 4 year olds and what that translates to is 60%, because if you're getting 12p and then we're giving 10% towards the inclusion fund, 25% for deprivation and 60% for us, we're looking at, you know, quite a minimal increase, which is fairly worrying considering the increases to, you know, there's pressures everywhere. I'm sure everybody is feeling it. But I will, oppose sort of what Lindsay was saying about the consultation periods. Historically it's been poor, so I'm really appreciating the fact that we've got a consultation before January, and you know, there's been years, I think 2017, 2018, we didn't even have a consultation. So I do appreciate the hard work that's gone in to doing that. Couple of other things. Going on the 10% for the high needs, I'm really concerned that this isn't enough. I'm sure, you know, as we've all been talking about the high needs block, having pressures in schools, we're having pressures here, and I'm really concerned the amount of children that we're going through the process of high needs funding for. It's you know, 10 to 15% of the intake of the children that I have in my setting, and it is not enough to support them, and I'm understaffed, underfunded for that. So I'm very concerned that overall 10% is not enough, and I don't know 10% of 12p or 10% of 17p on £8 an hour, you know. And for some of my children who have cerebral palsy, tracheas, who require constant one-to-one support, it does not cover an adult to support them. And I've had this argument in previous schools forum, and now my national minimum wage is going up to £9.50 an hour. I'm getting what, £8? I don't even know, I can't even do the maths of 10% on 12p, but you know, it's just, I'm very worried because it's not sustainable. Where are these children going to go? Because there isn't specialist provision for early years children, so we're having to support them in our mainstream private voluntary sector, and on £8 an hour. So I'm very concerned about those pressures, and not only that, I'm very sorry to say, but hearing from the sector, payments are still not coming in correctly, and it's really disappointing after you know, our major blip in 2017 with the payments being so poorly paid. I have to chase every month. I have to make sure I account for it every month. That's management time. That is, you know, office time that I'm spending to make sure that what's coming in is what I should be expecting. And majority of the time it's not. And I have to chase those. I have to chase payments. And I know that is consistent across the sector from providers that I've been speaking to. So yeah, I'm worried that there's been a few changes, I know, you know, in the structure, in the management structure, and also now early years is taking on the high needs payments. So yeah, that's all I have to say anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. I see Chris has got his virtual hand up.
Yeah, just about the high needs. The authority has a legal duty to support high needs, and if it can be shown with the notional funding that an individual setting has insufficient funding for a pupil, the authority will allocate extra high needs block budget.
How is that done?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It'd be done individually. So every school and setting has a notional amount. We know, and you know, the pupils that you've got, and we know what extra pupils cost. You may have a different view, but we would be the arbiter of that. And if we can see from the pupils that you have and the needs that they have that the notional funding is your budget is insufficient, we have a legal duty to provide extra high needs block funding.
Right. So, what avenue do you provide this? What avenue do we go down then?
I think Chris is talking about the high needs funding block that you can apply for a child with high needs.
Which is £8 an hour.
Yeah, that's I think what Chris is referring to.
Talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not. It isn't just that. If there was a pupil in early years, a child in early years with extraordinarily high level of need, then the high needs block is not limited to a set amount. We could look at the needs of each individual child, as far as I'm aware.
No, we've never had that.
Me neither.
No, you never had it. But the thing is, it's a legal duty of the council if a child has extra needs of making sure the setting or the school concerned has sufficient resources. The main methodology since 2013 has been through notional funding and obviously EHCPs and top-ups. That is all available to early years, unless Beth is telling me it's legally any different in early years.
No, so we don't receive the funding that's attached to an EHCP. We only receive the high needs funding that we apply for, which is £8 per hour, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I will just correct you. If a child does have an EHCP, you receive the EHCP money through the EHCP.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've never had that.
Me neither.
So I'll follow that up then.
Not through high needs, which is sorry, it's Kelly, it's an ongoing discussion I'm having between your team and the EHC team. The EHC team are saying that it should be just solely funded through the EHC and the plan, and your team are saying that be receiving £8 an hour. I don't believe that we should.
I'll tell you what.
And £8 an hour.
Yeah.
Shall we continue this discussion outside the schools forum, because this is just the consultation. People need to see they're happy with the consultation, and we'll take the high needs block things outside, Peter.
Yeah, I think it would. It certainly sounds like it's a serious issue. So I suggest that the nursery providers speak individually to yourselves to have a look at that. Hayley has a virtual hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say that needs to be, because then it just feeds into what Rachel was saying, is that's never been communicated to the sector. We've had loads of children here with the HCPs. So it's just about transparency and the sector knowing what they're entitled to, because we're constantly feeling like we're fighting for it, which is just exhausting, and we're meant to be managing settings.
Can I suggest that you take that conversation away?
Yes.
Just as a check from the forum's point of view.
Yeah.
Paul, under matters arising next time, can we have this as an issue on matters arising to check that we've gone back and had that conversation? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Anybody else got their hands up on this one? I don't think so. So we'll move on to high needs places, which is Beth, I believe.
Thank you. Yeah. Just bring the paper up.
I believe it's page 53 and 54 of your pack.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just check before we move on? We didn't have a vote on item 6.
No, there wasn't a vote. That was
Okay,
just
thank you.
information and to get some feedback on what the questions should be,
Okay, thank you.
which I'll take on board. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll try and make the details simpler, and I'll discuss with the maintained nursery setting heads before arriving at the questions. Moving on to agenda item 7, we have a duty to set the high needs places for schools and post 16 before the end of February each year. And before that, we have to submit to government any changes in academy places that we're wanting to set following discussions with those schools and academies. So this paper and the appendix with it is just to do the consultation with schools forum that we have to do to let you know about high needs places. And it also gives us, I think, publishing it now, if there's any surprises in there, if schools weren't expecting the particular places that we're setting, or if there are schools that are missing, that they can contact us before we've sort of set places and budgets in January. So it's not a vote, it's just for information and to raise the profile and to consult with Schools Forum, which is our duty. I should add that the free schools, they send their places directly to the ESFA, and that doesn't go through our return that we do. This is obviously following a lot of work within the LA. It's the kind of the end result of a lot of negotiation and discussion.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on that paper? Excellent, lovely, thank you. Let's move on to item 8, which is forward plan. I guess it's just there for us to have a look at, and don't know whether anybody wants to make any comments on it or not.
Correct, Chair. I wasn't planning to speak to it.
No. Okay, thank you. So we note the forward plan. Any other urgent business? I haven't received any. No, I take it there isn't. Well, that just leaves me to note the date of the next meeting, which I believe is Tuesday, the 18th of January. Yep. I've no idea. Oh, Councillor Baker, sorry.
I was just hoping to speak to you after you've done the last point that you were raising, but I just wanted to congratulate you on managing such a really tricky meeting, and thank you for, it was understandable we had to be virtual. We're all struck down by COVID in various areas, yes. But it didn't make it at all easy for you, so thank you very much indeed.
That's very kind of you, thank you. Yes, so it just leaves me to finally wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope everything goes as well as it can possibly do this Christmas. Yeah. And that schools are back in good heart in January and not with COVID like they were last year.
Yeah, and enjoy a well-earned break to all our head teachers and heads of settings. It's been a grueling term, 2 terms. So thanks all.
See you all in the new year, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.